that is restricted or protected. Look but don't touch for divers.
I'm just going to note that Supervisor Caprillion has joined us virtually.
Any further questions?
I would move we send this to county board for first reading. I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick question. Do we know if there's any other registered historic places that are non-located in Lake Michigan? If there's, with, based on shipwrecks and, sunken
I know there's,
facts.
I know there's some shipwrecks that off of Sheboygan and Door County that they have that people go out and dive.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if they're, state registered or nationally registered.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I do have a question,
Supervisor Wish.
even though I'm not on the committee. Are there gonna be buoys out there? How are divers gonna know that it's restricted?
That I don't know. I would guess it probably wouldn't be buoys, it'd probably be GPS location.
So they really don't know if they come upon that, they don't really know it's registered unless they find out from the village.
Well, that or the state or national.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Spencer.
So basically, we just declare it able to be part of the Register of Historic Places and then what?
We're supporting this is a resolution in support of that.
Okay.
Any further questions? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Good evening. Calling the November 3rd County Board meeting to order. If the clerk could take the roll.
Supervisor Kapralian is attending virtually. Supervisor Shakur is excused but may try and join by WebEx. Supervisor Varanth is on his way, so should be here in a few moments, and everyone else is here in the chambers.
Okay. It's customarily to have an opening prayer. Let's have a moment of silence. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 4, public comment. Pursuant to section 2-71 of the Racine County Code of Ordinances, each speaker shall be allotted a maximum of 3 minutes. Vice Chairman Meyer will be the timekeeper. He'll give you a 15-30 second warning before the end. So we've got 3 up here at the dais. If anybody else wants to speak, there's forms in the back, and it's just give them to the supervisors and they'll bring them up here for us. So the first is Paul Woodward. Come on, Paul, stand up, state your name and address.
All right, good evening, everybody. I am Paul Woodward. Address is 1455 Harmony Drive, Racine, Wisconsin. So I am the chairperson for Safe Water in Mind Racine, or SWIM Racine for short. We are a nonprofit organization collaborating with a coalition of residents, city and county officials, as well as corporate partners committing to promoting water safety in all communities within Racine County. Since we have launched, we have met with and are working with, in some capacity, the Racine County Sheriff's Department, Racine Police Department, Racine Fire Department, Ascension Hospital, school districts, water safety and educational organizations, private businesses, and a bench of amazing volunteers who are offering their skills and experience to keep our residents safe. And our network continues to grow. Our mission is to ensure that every Racine County resident has access to water safety education and that our shores and waterways are equipped to prevent loss of life. And with our mission in mind, I was disheartened to hear that cutting the funding for the lifeguards at Browns Lake was added to our county budget. Doing my due diligence, I watched the video from the Finance and Human Resources Committee meeting on October 29th. I wanted to hear for myself the case that was presented to justify the cut. And there were many interesting points made during the discussion. There have not been any drownings at the beach at Browns Lake was one of those points. To which I ask, is not the sign of a successful lifeguard program the prevention of drownings? Lifeguards perform many duties that are not as cut and dry as preventing drownings. According to the American Lifeguard Association, these duties of a professional lifeguard include enforcing the rules and regulations. Professional lifeguards must enforce the rules and regulations of their facility in order to prevent accidents and injuries. They must also be able to identify potential hazards and take steps to mitigate them. Providing emergency care. In the event of an accident or injury, professional lifeguards must be able to provide emergency care, which includes CPR and first aid. Monitoring the patrons. Professional lifeguards must consistently monitor the patrons of their facility in order to identify potential hazards and prevent accidents. And finally, they must respond to emergencies. In the event of an emergency, professional lifeguards must be able to respond quickly and effectively. They must have a thorough understanding of their facility's emergency procedures and be able to execute them. They serve as a watchguard over our beachgoers. They enforce the rules of the beaches that they protect. Their duties are extensive. Their impact is measured by far more than no drownings at the beach.
15 seconds.
Another concerning aspect that I had from the amendment debate was that there was an unknown financial impact of the budget by cutting the position. No specific dollar amount was given, nor was there a savings to the taxpayer. The dollar amount saved by cutting the lifeguards is $74,147, which I've been told equates to 75 cents savings per $250,000
Time is
in
up.
property.
Time's up.
Next is Mike Frontier.
Good evening again, and want to thank the members of the county board who assisted Rick in learning about the budget. What an enormous challenge it is, and we found nothing but cooperation in helping us learn about that. From meetings with your county executive and your county finance chair to Hope Otto and several of you on phone calls. My hope is there's some flexibility and nimbleness in the budget. We don't know what's coming. As we learned just this weekend, we're going to be SNAP is hurting, and with half the funding, I'm pleased to see the county apparently is going to respond in some way. I hope we have that kind of flexibility. Secondly, we had a town meeting regarding issues in the county at Burlington last week. And one of the saddest things I've heard in a long time, a woman who's lived in Burlington many years, said when she moved there from Milwaukee, she cried the whole first year because of the racism she experienced. She's a white woman. Bringing biracial friends to her community was traumatic. I'm pretty naive. I can't help but think back to Sister Brenda Walsh saying the interstate divide is the biggest issue in the county. And we have to ask ourselves, is that a racial divide? Something, I don't know how we address this, but it was profoundly sad to hear that. Secondly, there was concerns about signage and finding things in the county. And people found it interesting to learn more about the budget. We encourage them to talk to you. Again, thank you for your service and the tough decisions you have to make and being here for that.
And Bob Bagley. Next.
I'm Bob Bagley. I live at 1435 Spring Valley Drive in beautiful Racine, Wisconsin. 39-year resident of Racine County. And like Mike, I'm a member of the Racine Interfaith Coalition's Education Task Force, and I certainly have learned a lot about local government in these last 3 or 4 months. One of the things we still have concerns for, of course, is how human services is paid for. And the fact that human services has done so much in this community, and the demands on human services are only going to increase with the many catastrophic things that are happening on a national level. This business with SNAP, we understand that there are 14,000, as I understand it, kids in Racine County that are on SNAP, and that's going to be cut in half now for the next month. There's this whole question of Medicaid, and I think 20% of the people in Racine County are actually on Medicaid at this point. They're talking about raising increases in the amount that people are going to pay to be members of the Affordable Care Act plan. One of the figures I saw said that if a 60-year-old man making, I don't know, $57,000 is going to spend an extra $7,000 a year to have the same plan he has this year. There are challenges for everyone in this community, and not everybody really has the money to make up for these losses. So we need human services because we've got their work cut out for them. So I support the budget as presented, and I hope we can have more increases in the next year or so that human services can be something that we can depend on. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other visitors, public comment? Any other visitors, comment? Item number 5, then we'll move on. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting, which is automatically waived unless requested by the majority of the members present. Seeing none. Item number 6, resolutions and ordinance referred to committee.
There are none.
Item number 7, introduction of resolutions and ordinance for first reading and referral.
Resolution number 2025-53 by Finance and Human Resources Committee, setting a tax levy for 2025 to be collected in 2026.
Vice Chairman,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your executive committee met earlier this evening and unanimously passed resolution 2025-54. And if there's no objection, we'd like to present that to the county board tonight for first reading only.
seeing no objections,
Resolution number 2025-54 by the Executive Committee in support of the nomination of the Thomas H. Smith Shipwreck Steam Barge, restricted location in Lake Michigan near Caledonia, to the Wisconsin State Register of Historic Places and the National Register of Historic Places.
item number 9, communications and claims.
Number 1, notice of exemption from county tax for library services for the year 2026 from the Burlington Public Library. And number 2, a memo in support of the 2026 budget from County Board Supervisor Q.A. Shakur II.
Items number 1 and 2 are received and filed in the county clerk's office.
I will also note for the supervisors, if you haven't been through the items on your desk, Supervisor Shakur's memo there's copies for all of you available tonight. Item number 3 is a claim against Racine County. Items 4 and 5 are foreclosures of mortgage, and items number 6 through 25 are notifications from the United States Bankruptcy Court.
So items number 3 through 25 are referred to Finance and Human Resources Committee and Corporation Council.
Any requests for copies? Supervisor Coleman.
Thank you, Chairman. 3, please.
Number
3.
3. Supervisor Spencer.
Number 3, please. Thank you.
I'll also take number 3. Supervisor Hoffman.
Number 3 for me also. Thank you.
Supervisor Preisker.
Number 1, Mr. Chairman.
Any other requests?
Report number 2025-42 by County Executive making a reappointment to the Racine County Civil Service Commission was referred to the Finance and Human Resources Committee.
Supervisor Miller? Oh, wait a minute, Supervisor Trotter.
Mr. Chairman, this will be taken up at our Wednesday meeting.
Okay.
Next we have, so this will be laid over. So next we have report number 2025-43 by County Executive making reappointments to the Racine County Board of Health. This was referred to the Health and Human Development Committee.
Supervisor Miller.
Mr. Chairman, committee had been notified that we would be asking for a recommendation tonight. These are 2 reappointments, namely John Munson of Rochester and Vicky Prohaska, who actually lives in Mount Pleasant. So I would ask a member of the Health and Human Development Committee for a recommendation on these reappointments.
So move.
Supervisor Coleman is asking for a recommendation to confirm, and I believe Vice Chair Meyer has seconded. So any discussion on that from the Health and Human Development Committee? All right, from the committee, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So that being the recommendation, I would move to confirm these reappointments.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any comments or questions on this reappointment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion's carried.
Next, we have report number 2025-44 by County Executive making appointments to the Racine County Board of Health.
And refer that to the Health and Human Development Committee.
And
Mr.
report,
Chairman, just point of information, because the committee will not be meeting this month, next week at our meeting, I'm going to ask the same thing of the committee for a recommendation on these two appointments. So just a little advance notice. Thank you.
And the other is report number 2025-45 by County Executive making a reappointment to the Veterans Service Commission.
And that also goes to the Health and Human Services Department, and that'll be the same way with Supervisor. Yeah. Item number 10, standing committee reports containing recommendations and items referred.
There are no reports.
Second reading of resolutions and ordinances.
Under the majority vote category, we have resolution number 2025-44 by Public Works, Parks and Facilities Committee authorizing the conveyance of county-owned land by permanent easement to Wisconsin Electric Power Company doing business as We Energies to replace the transformer. Resolution number 2025-45 by Public Works, Parks and Facilities Committee authorizing the conveyance of county-owned land by permanent easement to Wisconsin Electric Power Company doing business as We Energies to install additional electrical cables and maintenance of equipment. And resolution number 2025-50 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing amendments to the 2026 Racine County Executive Budget and adopting the budget as amended.
Approval. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd ask for a separate consideration of the budget resolution 2025-50.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm requesting a roll call on resolution 2025-50.
Okay. Supervisor Hopkins.
Yes, so resolution 2025-44. This authorizes the conveyance of a county-owned land by permanent easement to Wisconsin Electrical Power Company, DBA Wisconsin Energies, to replace the transformers. This is a new transformer that will be need to replace at the Dennis Cornwall Center, and it was unanimously approved by the committee.
Any questions on the easement over at the Dennis Cornwall Center? Continue, Mr. Supervisor Hopkins.
All right, second resolution here, 2025-45. This authorizes the conveyance of another conveyance of the county-owned land by permanent easement to Wisconsin Electrical Power Company, DBA Wisconsin Energies, to install additional electrical cables, maintenance of equipment. This regards to the running an easement underneath Pritchard Park for the Pritchard Park Place apartments and condos that is going up over by the mall. It was unanimously approved by the committee.
Any questions on 2025-45? We'll take a majority vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to resolution 2025-50, let me just do a quick review here. Amendment number 1 indicates operating cuts and limit of the levy to 2.8. Cuts are proposed at $859,360. The general levy will be $62,591,563, down from the budget book stated of $64,375,416. The amendment proposed mill rate is 2.48. This is down from 2.59. Reduction of the county levy. The purpose of this is to reduce the tax levy for the 10 municipalities that contribute to the post-retirement health benefits of the former employees of the county schools. The 10 municipalities did participate in the Children with Disabilities Education Board before it was dissolved in June of 2006. Amendment number 3 eliminates the lifeguards at Browns Lake, net savings of $74,000. And amendment number 5 to eliminate the designation of unfunded from any and all positions, and all positions authorize the county board section of the budget book. This will clarify future budget discussions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Oh, we do? Okay. Any
I have a
comments?
question.
Supervisor Caprellian?
Thank you kindly. I did want to propose an amendment this evening. Would this be the time to do so?
Yes.
All right. Do you want me to wait my turn if you had something going on in the chambers?
Looks like we've got your attention, Supervisor Caprellian.
Well, lucky me. So thank you. I do appreciate it. I did propose an amendment and sadly I was not able to attend due to I have COVID. So I don't want to share that love with all of you. But I would like to reintroduce my amendment, and that is to properly fund the communications overtime budget line item. Can I just continue on my rationale, or what would be the format, Chairman?
Yes. Why don't you
All right.
continue?
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. So through research and when Jackie was presenting, it was noted during her presentation, I saw that their communications overtime budget was underfunded. I decided to substantially, not minimally, but substantially. So I did some research and I only went back about 8 years, and I noticed that it has been chronically underfunded. So just with the last 5 years from 2021 through 2025, we budgeted an average of $160,000 per year for overtime, but we actually spent an average of $462,000 and some chump change. That's $302,000 annual shortfall every single year. So in 2021, we budgeted 100,000, but we spent 404,000. 2022, we budgeted 100,000, spent 440,000. And it just continues. And now here, let's go in 2025. We budgeted 200,000, and right now it's already projected at 456,000. So the 2026 budget, it's still just at 200,000. So we are truly setting ourselves up for year 9 of what I've looked at. It could probably have gone back even further of the exact same problem. This, as you guys know, for communication, it's not about wasteful spending. We have a 24/7 operation that happens within the emergency center, communication center, and we can't shut off 911. That's why I've kind of focused on this area here, because back in September, if you remember it at our later September meeting, we had a specialist who had honored Jackie and another individual as their response to her 1-year deployment. So we are already going to be going into 2026 knowing that we are going to have a position that's going to have to be covered by staff. And I know in Wednesday's meeting, I sat and listened to it, that there were several supervisors that expressed concerns about using the human service reserves as I had suggested. And I understand the hesitation, but I hope you truly listened to Director Otto herself saying that she was supportive of this amendment. She explained that the human services reserves were approximately 3.9 million at the end of the year, and the reserves remain healthy. And here's another thing, the practice has been used most years to support the overall county budget. So human services happens to have the fortunate in the recent years to reduce their out-of-home placement costs and actually contribute to those reserves, as Director Otto had stated. So, and being that this is a healthy, or not healthy, but a standard practice. Some supervisors I heard during the meeting had concerns, again, about it setting a precedence, but this is something we've been doing. And what other department has this 8-year consistently running over 300% over budget on overtime? So I don't think this is about opening the floodgates. It's about fixing this one specific chronic budgeting that we have, that we know going into 2026, we're already going to see we're going to have to be using some overtime. So I know Supervisor Wish said, why are we budgeting for overtime that we haven't spent yet? Well, I would answer that because here we are, we're 8 years of data that I've looked at that we're proven it will be spent. The overtime is not optional for 911. So we're not creating new spending, we're budgeting honestly. And I remember Jonathan Delagrave really led this about the county being transparent. We want as much transparency as we possibly can have. And this is really about showing what are we truly spending in the communication so we can address what we may need to address each budget cycle. So, I am just asking for the reconsideration for approval and, hopefully you will see that this is something that we do need to properly budget for to have a good reflection. And I'm only asking this county board to add $280,000 to the communication overtime budget, bringing the total to $480,000 for 2026. That's still 17 some $1,000s below the 5-year average of what we've actually spent. So it's about being more realistic. And I'll happily debate if there's any other questions, but thank you for giving me this opportunity.
I take that's a motion you're making. Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you, Supervisor Preisker. Your motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Supervisor Preisker.
I do have a question. How has this $300 shortfall been filled for the last many years? The same process, taking the reserves from Health and Human Services?
Director Zimmer. Thank you, Director.
Yes. Every year, the Finance and Human Resources Committee approves and sends to board a resolution that does a budget cleanup for the entire enterprise of the county. So any departments that have a shortfall are covered by departments that have excess. If you don't spend all your office supply money, that goes to cover those areas that went over. And the remaining would go into the contingent area or be taken from the contingent area if needed. Last year, we added over 2 million to the contingent area. So this is where it gets cleaned up from.
Okay. So there's already a process now outside of the budget process that handles this, but I
Yes,
think
sir.
Supervisor Caprillian's amendment is trying to be more deliberate about it, which I don't disagree we should do, but. All right, thank you.
Supervisor Horth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I'm understanding this amendment correctly, this would in essence be increasing the current expense plan that we have in this budget for next year to the tune of, I'm sorry, Supervisor Caprillion, was it $200,000?
280.
200, so almost $300,000, we will be increasing the expense model for next year? That's a question.
Yes, I mean, we're taking it out of a contingency fund and putting it into the budget versus seeing where we shake out at the end in early 2027 and do the cleanup. So we're actually budgeting closer to what Supervisor Caprillion thinks is going to be the actual overtime.
So again, thank you, Mr. Chairman, just for clarification then, if we approve this amendment, we will be adding $300,000 at this point into this budget. And by the way, I don't disagree with Supervisor Caprellion's approach to this. I'm just trying to understand as we go through this process of reviewing amendments or discussions, what we're going to actually be doing to this plan that we've all been talking about. So again, I've got a running total for myself. I'm sure the other supervisors do as well. So thank you.
Supervisor Wish.
It's my understanding, and I don't want to speak for the department head, but maybe she should come up and explain her staffing issues over the last 7 or 8 years versus what she's anticipating to be. It's my understanding that we'll be almost fully staffed. And since I've been on the board, she's never had fully staffed. At least we're closer. That may have a bearing on the overtime. And yeah, I don't like building more expense into the current budget that we don't know for sure is going to happen or not. Those are two significant factors, I think. Thank you.
Would you like to come up, Director, and give us a rundown on what you feel your
Hi, thank you. So as I mentioned during the budget presentations, that effective today, we are fully staffed. As Supervisor Caprillion mentioned, we do have an employee on November 17th who will be on military leave for approximately 400 days. So that being said, yes, we're fully staffed today. However, 6 of the employees that started the end of August, 3 of which are signed off and call taking, 3 of which have met significant challenges as we're nearing their sign off date for the first phase of their training. So I know I've mentioned a few times that our biggest failure rate is during the initial training. That's what we see over and over again when we hire new team members. So that is mainly where we're losing people, is in those first several weeks of employment of not successfully completing the training in those first phases. So the hope is always that we will have full staff, which is why the number is plugged in the way it is, but it is truly a gamble with where those numbers will be. Unfortunately, that's the best explanation I can offer.
any further questions?
Me?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the amendment?
I mean, obviously, I appreciate the offer for help. We've had this discussion about overtime year after year, so certainly understand where Supervisor Caprillion is coming from. Again, it would be a complete gamble for me to speculate on where exactly we are. It kind of is a gamble going into every budget, where that number will land, unfortunately.
Supervisor Kolb?
How many, just the kind, you sound very shaky when you use the words fully staffed. How many times, like, just best guess, not, how many times have you actually even been this close to fully staffed, say average on the last 5 years?
I unfortunately did not bring that number with me, but as I mentioned, it's a gamble. It's a very difficult job to learn and a very difficult job to teach. So most of the job has to be learned on the job. So you're taking true 911 calls, you're providing CPR instructions to somebody while your trainer is helping you walk through that. So you can imagine the pressure that comes with learning a job like that. So some folks leave on their own because it's just too much to handle in those moments. Others, despite great effort, we just are not able to comfortably sign them off, taking those calls independently. And we certainly wouldn't want someone answering the phone who cannot be confident in their skills and abilities in doing so. So, yeah, it's unfortunately a gamble to say, you know, I will be fully staffed for however long, but today is an anomaly for sure.
Supervisor Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly appreciate Supervisor Coprellion's intent and desire to be closer to the mark in this unknown budget category. However, Director Zimmer has already indicated we do have a process to take care of this, and I think it's a good process. And I have the utmost respect for Director Otto, but I'm very protective about that Human Services Reserve, and I think although it's been used for other things, it ought not to be touched. I think it would be a very bad precedent to touch it for something that is unknown at this time. So we have a process, it works. I appreciate the sentiments, but I'm going to vote no on this.
If I could ask a question of Director Zimmer, real quick. If we don't spend all that money that we have for overtime, where does that overage or that unspent money go?
Do you mean if this amendment is approved and then you don't spend all of the money?
Right, in general, if,
It
you
go
know,
back to the general fund reserves or to cover another department that goes over.
okay. Supervisor Troutier?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last time this came up in the amendment process, I voted no against this request. I thank you Supervisor Caprillion for your comments this evening. And I am not for taking funds out of the HHS budget or reserve account, contingency fund, however we're using that. So I'm not for this. And I keep going back to why are we going to budget and possibly spend $300,000 for something that we don't know for sure? And I asked the Director Bratz the last time, are we staffed fully? Yes, we are. So let's be optimistic about this. I understand the precedent from the past, but let's be optimistic that we won't have overtime to the extent that we've had in the past. And should we have overtime, we have a process that will continue to follow. So I will not be supporting this amendment.
Any further?
Chairman,
Supervisor Caprillion?
thank you so much. I will just challenge that statement of this being an unknown and think of how we budget. We budget by looking at our past actuals. We budget by taking a look at historically, and that's how we propose any of the line items. So if you use that sense of rationale that this is an unknown, well, then I'll use it across the whole budget. But what I will challenge it on again is that there is a known. We are spending an average of $462,581 per year. That's a $302,000 annual shortfall every single year. This is no unknown. I mean, I'll just 2021 once again. $100,000 budgeted, or I'll just say how much we spent. $404,000. 2022, $440,000. 2023, $476,000. 2024, $536,000. 2025, $456,000. And ever since I've got on the county board, mind you, I have heard over and over again the struggles with having employees stay on in communications. It's a hard job. I don't think we'll ever hear it being said any differently. They are going to have turnover. If any of you have gone to dispatch and sat in there, you feel the difficultiness of that job. So we'll continue to have turnover. Director Jackie, she did mention about the new employees and the current training being not yet working independent, like 6 of them, I think. And then we have the military leave. With all that being said, there is going to be an impact on overtime. So, and other things that we have to also put into consideration, our joint dispatch contract entered into the final decade where municipal contribution declined 10% every year. So we're now, we have a loss of revenue. We're losing revenue while operation demands stay exactly the same. So I heard about historically looking, the call center is receiving more calls than what it used to receive in the past. So keep that in mind as well. And there's been introduction of new ways for communications to come in, like through text. So the demands on that department. Secondly, we made appropriate workforce adjustments, reclassifying supervisors to higher pay grades, increasing shift lead premiums. And this was some time ago, adjusting wages for essential personnel. I don't know if you remember that, but this all affected it. But yet they're having a 10% of our revenue annual from the municipal partners being lost. I'm going to be honest, folks. I don't know where the money should come from. That was the one that, came to me, and I was going to pull from somewhere else. But if any of you have any other better suggestions, but why do we budget to have an accurate representation of what we're going to be spending for our coming year? So if we are going to keep putting in that budget that we're only spending 200,000 or 100,000, whatever you guys wish to say, it's inaccurate. It's an inaccurate representation of how much it costs to run our communication center. So I think we would be doing a disservice to our whole budgeting process. Granted, this is just one tiny line item, but it stands out. Don't we want to look as accurate as possible? So I argue that fact. And again, this is more of a realistic look at it. And I think we need to move forward with this amendment or a proposal of it coming from somewhere else. That's my final argument. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Preisker, I couldn't see behind Bob, so.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Supervisor Caprillian's sentiment, but I think we can do a better job and have a more realistic approach on staffing and overtime, but I'm not sure this is the time or the method to solve this. If it were done, though, I do want to confirm, I think there was the comment that it would increase expenditures. It would, but if I understand right, the use of reserves would not increase the levy to taxpayers.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Supervisor Hort.
Sorry, I wasn't going to add until I heard that, because the one thing I would be offering, we're very cautious about, is that approving expenses in anticipation that we know we're not going to get to a number, but we can always go to a reserve account and get the number. To me, that's not transparency. And I know there's a process in place. I get it. I don't have any issue with that. The problem is we're just literally saying we are going to under budget a line item because we know that based on the trend, that's what's going to happen. And then we can go ahead and have money come out of a reserve account to offset where that shortfall is. Can we do that for all departments that go in excess then? Go to a reserve account? I'd be really guarded and cautious before we start, continue budgeting with that mindset.
Supervisor Wish.
Yeah, I am definitely against the amendment only because I don't know. We've been on the board. I've been on the board 17 years. You've been on the board over 20 some odd years. You can't budget for overtime. It's the sheriff's department. We've had a running battle with them forever. This is another department that you need and we have to have, and if they spend overtime, we have to come up with the money. At this point, we don't know what that number is. And I am in the same boat. I don't want to, we already have a procedure in place for handling it. They're going to get covered. Rather than putting it in the budget, another $300,000 expense on the expense line. So to me, it's a moot point on the amendment. Thank you.
Any further comments? Roll call vote on this amendment to transfer $280,000 out of the Human Services reserves to the overtime for the communication operators at the 911 center.
Okay, first we need everyone to just check into the meeting.
Put it up to.
Aim it
part
over
this way.
here. Aim
Aim it
it
over
towards
here.
John. And hit confirm again, maybe. There we go. Now you can vote. Supervisor Kapralian, how are you voting?
Aye.
And Supervisor Shakur, I'm going to attempt to unmute you. Jonathan, are you able to unmute Supervisor Shakur? Oh. All right. Supervisor Shakur, do you want to text me your vote? He was texting, he could hear, but he couldn't speak. Oops, and I think I hit the wrong.
Already voted.
No, I grabbed the wrong one. I have to confirm. This is Supervisor Kapralian's vote. I need to confirm Supervisor Kapralian, or excuse me, Supervisor Shakur's, because I grabbed the wrong thing as I was trying to contact him. Mr. Chairman, would it be acceptable if I call Supervisor Shakur?
Otherwise, if Supervisor Shakur could text phone here, you text me. I've got my phone here if you want. Or you can try calling him, but he's probably on.
Well, he tried calling me and I have my phone on
Okay.
mute, so. He's texted yes. So that is the correct vote. Just give us a moment so we can get that recorded. So that amendment does not pass.
Moving on. Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. I would like to present an amendment to the third amendment that we approved last week. And I'd like to reinstate the funding to lifeguards at Browns Lake.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded to fund the lifeguards at Browns Lake. Is there any comments? Supervisor Spencer.
Yeah, as you know, from last week, I had heartburn with removing the lifeguards that were hired to work rescue and other duties at the lake. And for the minuscule amount that it would save and bring, which is 0.003 cents per household and 75 cents for the average household across Racine County. It is not worth taking away lifeguards that can save lives and do all the other important duties that they do. And I hope that we pass my amendment.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am one that has a history of and a desire to find things we can cut whenever we can. But I do know something like this, which is a high profile public recreational issue. It irritates the hell out of people when we try to find something to cut and then we cut something like a lifeguard from a beach where people are hoping to have a safe summer. So in committee, I did not support this and I now am supporting the reinstatement.
Supervisor Preisker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one's a tough one for me. It's in my district. I've been a longtime supporter of water safety. It's why when Burlington did our aquatic center, they made a big focus of the aquatic center is teaching swim lessons to children as an important life skill. My personal thought is if the counties should either provide lifeguards at county beaches or not provide them at county beaches. And I didn't know until this discussion happened that at other county beaches, we don't have lifeguards now. And really, for me, it's not about the savings of 75 cents per $250,000 house. It's more about the liability to the county. So unless unless we have lifeguards at all of our beaches and they're well trained enough that there isn't going to be a drowning while we have someone on staff, I'm concerned about having the lifeguards there. And if we did have a drowning, then the county is liable for, potentially millions of dollars if there were to be a tragic accident. So I do like the idea of having safety, but I'm concerned about the liability for the county unless we're really sure that we're staffed adequately across all of our beaches.
Corp Counsel, since you're the risk manager.
Sure. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the topic of liability for county beaches, parks in general, generally speaking, the doctrine of recreational immunity applies. And so there being no statutory mandate that counties or municipalities provide lifeguards at public beaches, the absence of lifeguards or the presence of lifeguards in and of itself will not be dispositive when it comes to liability. In other words, having lifeguards, but then in the event that there was a drowning death, while it may influence somebody's decision to bring a legal action, generally speaking, that recreational immunity is going to apply. There's also statutory caps that would apply. So the reference to millions of dollars in the absence of gross negligence, willful misconduct, very unlikely that that sort of a finding or damage amount would apply. So the liability, it's generally speaking not going to be a consideration whether there are lifeguards or not, given that it's not a statutorily mandated function, different from an aquatic center or a public pool where there are minimum requirements for staffing. That does not apply to public beaches such as Browns Lake.
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I'm just going to piggyback off of Supervisor Preisker's comments. A lot of this really just comes down to consistency. Either we have them at all county parks or we don't. Safety consistency. Other natural water areas in Wisconsin's rivers, lakes, and beaches operate successfully under the same model of not having lifeguards present in different areas. So I would ask that we do keep this amendment as is in the budget, please. Thank you.
Supervisor Kolb.
I do see Director Beams here. I guess I got just kind of when are we supplying lifeguards? I mean, are we supplying them from 7 a.m. till 8 o'clock at night? Are we doing them on weekends? I mean, how much time are we paying that maybe we have to look at different hours? Do we supply them from 3 to 6?
Director Bean, and I see the park superintendent too there.
Lifeguard hours are 10 to 6 every day. 7 days a week.
Supervisor Horth.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just quickly for all of our knowledge, how many public beaches do we have in the county?
2, am I correct? Yeah. There is Quarry Lake and Browns Lake. So those are the county.
Okay, thank
you. And then of course we've got Case Eagle along the river. That's, there's kayaks and things going down there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments, questions? I'll let Jody go ahead. Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. Does anyone know how long Browns Lake has had lifeguards? How many years? My intent in asking for them to be reinstated now is that they've been there for, I'm sure, many years. Haven't got a reply. And I also have the intent of bringing forth lifeguards to Quarry Lake Park for the next budget. But with all the things going on in this budget, I didn't want to risk. It's a risk, but I didn't want to, you know, everybody wants to pull money out of the budget. I'm just trying to keep that amount where it is. And next year, I hope to propose that we have lifeguards at our county park, which we have not been charging for. Browns Lake has been collecting a fee for also, I don't know how many years. But we are now, this year in the budget is to start charging a fee at Quarry Lake Park. So it hasn't happened yet. So my reasoning is wait till next year and then hopefully we'll get lifeguards at the other county beach. Did that not make sense?
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you, sir. This is more of just a question. For the fees that we charge at Browns Lake, this is probably a question for Director Beam. The fees that we charge at Browns Lake and for the cost, this is more just general information. Fees that we charge at Browns Lake versus the cost for the lifeguards. Are we making, I guess, are we in the black versus the red?
I suppose it wouldn't just be the lifeguards included in that,
Right.
but Browns Lake is in the red.
Right, so I guess to the point, Supervisor Spencer, if we're charging fees at Quarry Lake, right? And then we're adding a cost, I mean, I guess we're not really gonna be heading into the black in that park then either, correct? Most likely. We're basically just adding.
We would need some time to see how everything shakes up.
I guess what I'm getting at is we're gonna be adding an expense. That's really what it's gonna come down to.
Any further comments?
I have a
Supervisor
question,
Hopkins.
Chairman.
And we'll get you next, Supervisor Caprellian. Supervisor Hopkins.
I wholeheartedly agree with my colleague, Supervisor Spencer, and I will be voting in affirmative for her amendment.
Supervisor Caprellian.
Thank you kindly. I'm not sure if Supervisor Spencer's question was answered about how long we have had lifeguards. Was that answered?
Supervisor or Director Bean or Supervisor Miller.
I'd have to get back to you on that time length that we have lifeguards at Fisher, as long as I've been here.
Yeah, how long have you been here?
Okay,
10 years.
that's fine.
10 years.
So at least 10
Had 'em
years.
Much before that.
Okay.
too.
And then with my next question would be, were the fees put in place to help cover the cost of lifeguards? Is that, or did the fees supersede lifeguards being there?
Generally, beaches are very expensive. Between the fees and cover the sand, they cover, I mean, we pay a lot to have that beach on that lake to the Lake District itself. So that's a lot of the fees. And yes, some of the could go to the lifeguard. There's no one thing that those fees are dedicated for. Beaches are very expensive. Anytime you have property on a lake, it's very expensive to have that property on a lake. And so that's what those fees cover. They help cover everything.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes back, I know they've been charging fees for the last at least 15 years, because I think that was when we were going over there to the beach. And then, of course, we made an upgrade over at the beach with the new concession stand, changing rooms, just like we did over at Quarry Lake this year with the seawall and the building and the dredging we've done, and over there, we have to do a treatment every so often to control the algae.
Correct.
So there is a lot of costs involved in a beach.
I can understand that. So thank you. I was just trying to see if we had established those fees based on having lifeguards. The one comment that I don't think has been made, but when I think about culture or human behaviors, human patterns, or, there are certain things we expect from spaces and places. I can say as a mother who has brought their child to, whether it be the library or whether it be to a beach or a space, and continually over the years, you build a certain set of expectations of that space. And, if it has been established for as long as it's been that we have lifeguards, it becomes like this extra security in place that you've come to rely on. And as this isn't something that we just introduced, like within the last couple years in response to, whether it's been drownings like we've been seeing, us trying to come up with solutions down by Lake Michigan, uh, I really think the community has come to depend on this level of safety. I would have to agree with the other supervisors who are really, arguing this, and especially with our whether we'd have liability or not. And um, but I am of the mindset now, hearing that it's been established for so long and it has to deal with safety. Is it something we should have been in business of? Probably not. Maybe we never should have started it, but we did. And this probably isn't the way to let it go. I think maybe we could start backing out of it. I did hear Supervisor Spencer talk about next year, possibly at Corey Lake, propose it. Maybe there's some other solution. So before having us be the solution of bringing lifeguards, maybe there's another solution. And then with that solution, we find a way to start easing ourselves out of the obligation of that. But I'm going to have to support Supervisor Spencer's amendment. Thank you.
You can go.
Supervisor Wish.
Thank you. Now you brought up all sorts of other questions. I used to be a lifeguard. So I'm familiar with that, with what needs to be done and what they do. I would like to see more input, or since we don't know a whole lot about what it's costing us as a county, I would like to see more data. I would like to know how much is being spent on the maintenance of the beach, the maintenance of the park, and how much the lifeguards are actually costing us. And then relook at the fees and also see if the village or the township or whatever can help offset some of those expenses. And I agree, maybe we should have a lifeguard since we've got them in Browns Lake at Corey. I think we've had more issues at Corey than anywhere. But I don't want to agree to that until I know what it is we're spending. Thank you.
Supervisor Coleman, did you have a comment?
I just wanted to say, in a place, safety wise, people pay. Doesn't matter if we're in the red or black. Safety. We need to adopt this everywhere. It's a yes for me.
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you. To answer two of your questions, the cost is $74,000 a year for salary. The town will not chip in costs. I can tell you that right now. And then I guess I just have a general question. What are the other neighboring counties or municipalities around us that do not have lifeguards and that have not had them from some time? I mean, I guess how have they fared all these years with no issues?
Supervisor Spencer, last time.
Thank you. There have been issues. Fox 6 News reported in 2017 that a 4-year-old boy drowned in Browns Lake. So it was stated last week that there had been no drownings, and that after some research from a friend that we discovered that a child did drown in 2017. 2 years ago, someone drowned at Coy Lake Park. And my feeling is if people are paying to get into a beach or a park, they should be provided, they should expect services, and they should be provided with lifeguards. I think other solutions are, I would like to see this amendment to the amendment pass and then look at changing hours. You referred to how Tuesday afternoons were dead. I think they're not dead, not busy. And the lifeguard might sit there and do nothing so we can review the hours. I don't know, maybe Raleigh would consider that. It's important to have safety there. Since I was a kid, Browns Lake was probably the busiest beach around. And it, the lifeguards were useful. I mean, I don't remember specifically because that was a long time ago, but it's been a long time and people do expect when they pay that they get services. And that's why, you know, I didn't bring it up this time for Coy Lake Park, but I will next time. And I think that's reasonable to expect those services.
Any further questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So it has been, this supervisor remembers as a youngster, there were lifeguards at Browns Lake. So you can try to do the math. I'm not going to share anymore. But
It's been longer than 21 years, huh, Bob?
yes, sir. If this had been part of the county executive's original budget at which the public would have had a chance to chime in on this, I might feel a little bit differently about this, but you know, for a small amount of money, and I like to save small amounts of money if we can, I think this is really bad optics. I can see a headline, after 50 years, county board axes lifeguards at Browns Lake. It saves you 75 cents on your house.
Any further comments or questions? Okay. This is a voice vote. Well, a roll call. We'll have a roll call vote. Thank you, Supervisor.
Chairman, could you clarify what a yes and a no vote mean?
Okay, so a yes would actually restore the funding for the lifeguards at Browns Lake. And if Supervisor Wishaw was 74, about $74,000, so.
Supervisor Capellion, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Supervisor Shakur, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All have voted and 2, 3, 4, 6. This motion passes 15 in favor. And please leave that up so we can record that. Thank you.
Any further amendments from the floor? Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you. I had discussed this last week with finance and also with Director Straight. I would like to make an amendment to remove the $250,000 out of the contingency fund. I was made aware that the salary study is actually listed on page 155 under contracted services. So this was just for wages. And I did get a copy of the contract. There's nothing in the contract that I can see that says that we have to put this in the contingency fund. It could be brought forward at the time when they do present that salary study. So I would be a lot more comfortable having that done all at one time rather than piecemeal, just for transparency's sake. So this is my motion for that amendment.
Motion's been made and seconded. Supervisor Wishaw. Any comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Miller.
Was my understanding that this was approved last year by the full county board?
As I,
So I'm very open to what you're trying to do here, but I do not understand how we can change something that was already done.
if
Can Director Zimmer or Corp Counsel help us with that?
or Supervisor or Director Street or Zimmer explain to us the $250,000.
Sure. So what was approved last year is on page 155, that's in the HR budget, that's to have the salary study completed. This would be to implement the salary study recommendations. So it would be wages that are put in the contingency fund.
So you're just if I could, Mr. Supervisor Miller? Can I ask a question? Thank you. You're done? Okay. So this is, we're taking this out of the contingency fund, just like kind of budgeting overtime. We don't have a real hard number like we just did with Supervisor Caprellians.
Yeah, I would say it's the bare minimum that we're going to need to get the framework in place to implement the salary study.
Supervisor Rossi?
Thank you, Chairman. Curious then, Director Street, what does that exactly mean? Is that labor hours for you to do something, or is that actual hour payment towards salary increases?
Yes, it would be actual payment towards salary increases. So like I was explaining, through the salary study, some positions that we have already addressed through when we had the ARPA funds and we identified the essential positions. So some positions we have addressed in previous years. So some of those positions maybe need a very minimal increase, whereas others are going to need more of a drastic increase because maybe they haven't had a close look in 15, 20 years.
Another follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Then the question is the salary study done or is it not done?
It is not in final form yet.
So we're acting on it.
It's very close to being done. No, we're putting aside some money so that when we are able to come to all of you with a final plan, that we would have some money to act on.
If it's very close, what is the number right now?
I mean, I don't feel comfortable talking about those numbers today.
Interesting. Thank you.
It's my understanding that to go into the details of the salary study, it would have to be properly noticed.
Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions for Director Street, just a comment. I'm not an expert in HR. I think that's why we have the director here speaking on behalf of HR. And not having the final study completed is acceptable to me. I think it's necessary that we put funds aside for the possibility of the results of the study. And I'm not in favor of allocating those funds for property tax relief. I believe we have in our budget, the proposed amended budget, approximately $5 million in there already set aside for property tax relief. And I just as soon rather leave this money in the fund for HR's possibility of having to increase some of the salaries. So I will not be in favor of this amendment.
Supervisor Forth? Supervisor Rossi?
Thank you, Chairman. And this is just more of a general comment. I find it very odd that there is an amount in the budget for which we cannot understand via a paper trail what is the basis for the ask. So this is a huge leap of faith, and I'm a trust but verify type of person. So we don't have the final understanding of what the total value is. There's really no way to verify what portion of this is actually, addressing the full amount of the salary increase. If this is a large number, which I'm starting to really think it is, this is starting to become very concerning. I didn't expect to find out about it through this discussion. Thank you.
Supervisor Kolb?
I guess I'm kind of confused. When was the original date that this study was supposed to be finished? Because it just seems odd that we're doing this right now when we're trying to do a budget. And this is actually one of my concerns going forward and why I'm kind of I still don't know how I'm going to vote on this budget tonight because this salary study is hanging over our heads. And we run into something next year. We are on the cusp right now with the sales tax of making a budget. And if this comes out, I kind of felt like this was I've been hearing about this for a long time. Do we have an original date of when this was supposed to be?
I do not have a firm date. And I just would also like to say the salary study is not only comparing our wages, but it is also looking at all of our benefits, including vacation, insurance costs. It's a very comprehensive study, and all of those details will be given to all of you.
Supervisor Horth?
Thank you. And Director Street, first of all, I'd applaud you for anticipating this as a part of the plan going forward. However, along with the other supervisors' comments right now, I find it very difficult to agree and support this type of a situation when we're about to approve a budget. When we knew the timing of the budget, we knew exactly when this was all going to be done. And the fact that this company hasn't completed their study yet, because this was already, I know, doled out a while back, that it wasn't committed that it was going to be completed so we could have meaningful information to make an educated decision on this process is very troubling to me right now, along with the others. And again, I applauded you for making sure you're thinking about it. The problem is it could be this number, it could be no number, or it could be double this number. And we're on the cusp right now of trying to approve something that none of us are feeling 100% comfortable with as it relates to our constituents and what they're expecting from us. So
And
just my observation.
Yes, and we do want you to be 100% comfortable, and it is a lot of information to digest. That's why we do want to do it separately outside of the budget, because it would be very messy and clunky to be doing this all at once.
In fairness, though, that's based on where we are today. I think what my assertion is right now is this is something that should have already been completed 2 months ago. So before the numbers ever got presented with the dollars and cents attached to people's salaries or wages, that we knew that information, so that it was a meaningful document for us at this point. So that's the only thing I'm saying, all right? I understand timing and I understand processes. And by the way, I certainly have done enough wage surveys where I get the process, but 21 of us are being asked to make this decision tonight. And that's where, unfortunately, that's where some of us are thinking right now.
If I may add 2 comments just to give some greater context around this. We had to do an RFP in order to pick this vendor for the contract. I just looked at the RFP timeline and the anticipated finalization date was November 2025. So we are still on schedule for it. It's November 3rd. So we're still on target for it. It was so comprehensive that I sat in on the RFP evaluation. There was no way that they could have completed it 2 months earlier. They needed that amount of time to look at all of our comparables. And then also, because we had never done this before, I reached out to Kenosha County. I knew that they had done a salaries study within the last couple of years with their finance director to figure out how they budgeted for anticipated wage increases, and they did it the exact same way that we're proposing here. They had $500,000 set aside in wages for salary wage increases in their budget, so that when they were available, when the study was available, they had money set aside for it.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make one additional point? Upon finalization of the salary study, to affect any of the changes that would either be reclassification or renaming the various classifications for the different employee classes, to increase pay for a particular position, to make those sorts of adjustments would require separate board authorization. And so there was a comment made about transparency. I just want to make sure that everybody is understanding in that 250,000, which is for all intents and purposes a placeholder to address the most immediate impacts of the salary study. That would not be the final action to actually expend. It's just when the time came upon finalization of the salary study to affect those most immediate impacts, that fiscal note, rather than necessitating the finding of new sources of funding, it would be a transfer from, as I understand it, that contingency account, if that were part of the approved budget this year. I just wanted to make that clarification of how that would actually be affected and to make clear that separate board authorization would still be needed.
Supervisor Preisker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Street or Zimmer, you started to touch on it, but can you just speak to how you arrived at the $250,000 figure? Is it like a percentage of payroll or a recommendation of the consultant or maybe the county executive?
I can answer that. I asked for a placeholder to be put in the budget this year, again, for realistic budgeting, knowing that we were going to have to address the salary study at some point in the year, probably in the fourth quarter of next year. That's a projected amount. We'll have to wait for the final amounts to come out. And to your point, Supervisor Horath, it would have been nice to have this months ago to have this debate before the budget, but that just wasn't possible. So I would expect the debate to continue on whether or not we implement the salary study after this process. But again, that's a placeholder I asked to be placed in the budget. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it. It means we're going to still talk about it afterwards. But again, a safety feature, in my opinion, where is the real expense going to come in at?
Supervisor Kelly.
Thank you. So I guess I just have a question. So I remember this document, which was our original paperwork from our finance committee. When I served on the finance committee, I very much took a little journey down that path because I remembered this item because I had such angst with it because it was coming out of the contingency fund. And so I remember that there was a change, but so this was June 19th of 2024. So I guess first of all, timelines matter since everybody's talking about timelines. This all happened right before the sales tax. So that was interesting as well. So why is it taking so long for this to come out? I guess is my question. And, secondly, my comment would be, I looked around at other different counties that have done some of these salary studies and it could be upwards in the millions. So, I mean, it's scary.
Supervisor Hopkins.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm probably speaking rhetorically, but there is this whole budget process I'm looking at, there is an assumption of due diligence. And indifference to a department and certain weight that I would attribute to the work that they do. So with that being said, I think it's a fairly high threshold for me, really high threshold to overturn a budget recommendation. And I don't believe this has met that threshold. So I'm not in agreement with this amendment at all. So no.
Any further comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Wish.
We don't know until we find out. And then if we find out and it's something that we can't live with, we don't vote for it. But pre-planning and having some money available is better than having no money there. And we find out that we're so far off on what we're paying our employees that we can't do anything. So until we find out, I guess I am not in favor of this amendment. I'm in favor of leaving the money there as a placeholder and relying on the county executive and Sarah Streeter and Director Zimmerman and all to come back and tell us what's realistic. What can we do? May not be able to increase everybody's wages, but maybe we hit the key employees and maybe it isn't millions of dollars. We don't know. Thank you.
Any further comments?
I have a question, Chairman.
Go ahead, Supervisor Caprellian.
Thank you. First, I wanted to make a snarky comment because here we're voting on some unknown when my amendment was showing some knowns and it's a little frustrating. I guess we're looking at something a little bit bigger here though, but, so if we remove this funding and the fund in the study, I would almost need to hear, Gwen repeat what she had said, but if the study was due this month, if it shows we need immediate salary adjustments for critical retention issues or whatever it may be, are, what would that look like? We won't have any of the funding or mechanism in place until our next budget cycle. Is that how that would work? We would wait until 2027 budget process or do an emergency amendment mid-year? Or once the employees hear about it, that's my concern. Once this wage study becomes public, the employees hear about it, then they move off to better pay because they see the comparison through other municipalities or whatever our comparables are. I don't know if that's even something to be answered, or maybe it is. What happens then? Would we have to wait for the next budget cycle if this gets removed?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Director Zimmerman, but if we have a November 2025 completion date, we will be shortly seeing this in January, February, March,
I don't want to.
first quarter.
Yep.
mean-
Director Street is nodding her head to that. And to answer your question, Supervisor Capellian, we often do budget amendments during the year. Those are fiscal notes and resolutions that come through the Finance and Human Resources Committee. So by setting money aside here, money would be available for a pending resolution that would come when the salary study is presented to the board. If this amendment were approved tonight, the money would be removed, would go to direct property tax relief as outlined in the fiscal note directed by Supervisor Kelly, and the money would no longer be available.
And one additional point, the mid-year amendment. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Supervisor Rossi, I was just one, and then Supervisor Spencer's next.
Thank you,
Can I
Chairman.
just follow up though after I
Oh,
hear? what
Okay,
the-
yeah, let's go back to Supervisor Caprellian.
Okay, was that Corporation Counsel Landsdorf wanting to add something? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear whose voice that was.
What do you have there?
I just want to make sure that this body is clear that a mid-year budget amendment is a higher voting threshold. It's a 2/3 member-elect vote, so 14 supervisors would need to be supportive of it versus the regular budget vote, which is a majority vote. So I just want to clarify that technicality.
Gotcha. Thank you. So from my understanding, no matter what, I mean, if we do, as what was just mentioned, we come before us to do budget amendments throughout the year. And when the results come in and we do need to make the would somebody help me? COVID brain.
Necessity.
Thank you. If we would need to move forward and make the proper amendments, we would do so anyway with the exact dollar amount. So we don't know if it's 250, 150. I, are we that far off as a municipality? I mean, we just don't know. I can see why supporting this makes a lot of sense. I mean, we definitely want as close to actuals as what we're seeing at the moment, hence why my other amendment was being proposed. And our necessary, that's the word I was trying. Oh my goodness, the necessary dollars that we need to put aside, we have no idea at this moment. And we have a mechanism in place when we have to make amendments throughout the year. So I guess the piece I'm missing, and maybe Gwen could speak on it, why would it be beneficial to have this $250,000 set aside now as this placeholder when we still have to move forward? Does it change where the dollars come from, or what happens throughout the year when the amendments would be needed to make adjustments?
And correct me if I'm incorrect, Supervisor Zimmer. This $250,000 is coming out of non-allocated revenue. That would be, right now, it's in our contingency.
Yeah, it is not coming from
And,
reserves.
and if this passes, it doesn't go back into contingency, it goes into property tax relief.
That's correct.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Supervisor Capralian?
Well, then where will it come out of? Let's say now in January. Come January, all of a sudden we get through the finance or come before the county board. We now have to make this adjustment. And now we are going to have an ask from Director Street saying we need $250,000 to adjust these wages. What pocket does that come out of then?
Most likely contingencies, Supervisor or Director Zimmer?
Yeah, I would go at the direction of the county board of where just like amendments here tonight, where the funding should or should not come from. I mean, available areas would be reserves or taking from another department or increasing revenues. I mean,
Supervisor Trotter?
No, I'm just stating that it may come back out of the contingency fund.
which just to be noted is reserves, contingency.
Right,
reserves.
right, reserves.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever doesn't get spent from there goes into reserves, and whatever is spent needs county board approval.
Right.
So thank you. So whether we take it from it now or take it from it later. So it sounds like, just making sure with this amendment, we don't have the dollar amount, the exact dollar amount. We're just in preparation for it. Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Spencer?
Thank you. I'm glad we had this discussion. I am against the amendment. But I feel I'm voted for this last year and I'm in favor of completing it and discovering where our shortfalls are. And we need to pay our people appropriately and provide benefits appropriately because we don't want to lose good or great employees. And we need to know. That's all I'll say.
Supervisor Rossi?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to point out to everyone that if the anticipated let on this is going to be in Q4 of next year, and it's $250,000, it doesn't take much more than 5 seconds of math to figure out that the minimum is $1 million. Unless I hear otherwise, that's the number I'm going to run with. I find it very interesting, and Director Street just said this, that the reason that this information isn't being discussed is that it wasn't properly noticed. We're talking about every aspect of this right now, except for the full amount. We're talking about $250,000, and that can be correlated to the study as where else would that data have come from. But we can't talk about the full number because the study is not completed yet. Very concerning. We're making hiring decisions right now about more people. We're going to bring on more people, and we're going to have to pay more money to, but we're going to leave this portion of it off of the discussion for the budget. We're going to catch it next year in Q4. Very odd. Thank you.
Any further comments? Supervisor Kolb.
I just got a quick, and I don't even know if this is possible from Director Zimmer or Street. Do we know what percentage of the wages come out of the levy versus non-levy?
Okay. It was just, yeah. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit more time because of the funding for different locations, different departments. No, it's kind of molded in human services and child support. Supervisor Horth.
Mr. Chairman, if I could request that when we get to the motion and the voting part, that we repeat exactly what it is we're going to be voting on, please.
Yes. Any further questions? I'm going to call for a roll call vote on this one. So a vote yes would take $250,000 out of an expense that's paying for future projected costs of a salary study, or portion of it, and it would put it against the property tax relief in use. So does everybody understand what a yes vote is? Do you want any further clarifications? Okay. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna just do round numbers here. And guys are keeping me on my toes tonight. About 30% are funded totally by grants and 70% by levy. Does that answer your question, Supervisor? Thank you.
Supervisor Kerpelian, how do you vote on this amendment?
Aye.
So that's a yeah. Could you say yes or no? It's easier to hear over virtual.
Sure, yes.
Oh, thank you. Supervisor Shakur, the same question. How do you vote on this amendment? He is voting no. Okay. Yours should have been a no. Supervisor Coleman, I will just ask you to confirm that you abstained. Yeah.
Who's checking in? So we have Supervisor Preisker is a no also.
This is slightly unusual, but could I ask for a new tabulator vote? So we're not changing 3 of them? Or should we just proceed with the verbal changes? I want to make sure that I have these correct.
Is everybody? All right.
So I will repeat. Supervisor Kapralian had said yes. We'll mark that. And Supervisor Shakur had voted no. So that motion fails. And again, just give us a moment to document this. Thank you.
Any further amendments from the floor? Any further amendments from the floor? Then we'll take up the resolution, the 2025-50, which is the budget. Supervisor Trottier.
Thank you. I just have a comment before we take the vote. I would like to thank the residents here in the chambers this evening and those online. I'd also like to thank the employees that are here and online. And last but not least, our 21 county board supervisors that are partaking in this great discussion that is the first time in my 8 years on the county board that I've seen it like this, and it's great. As we near the end of the 2025 year, I want to also thank the residents of Racine County and visitors for contributing since April of 2025 to the county sales tax. This provided the tradition of first-class service and state-of-the-art public safety by covering the $17 million shortage that we had last year. As I've stated in the past, this county budget has been a revenue issue, not a spending issue. Our neighbors to the south and our neighbors to the west have had the sales tax in place for 34 years, collecting from their residents and guests and visitors over $200 million towards their services and safety. Quite a large amount. This proposed amended budget aligns with sessions that were held with county board supervisors in April of 2025. It was 4 priorities had been identified: service, operations, capital, and cost cutting. All 4 of these are equally important, but what makes these priorities successful? Quality #1 county employees, service with competent, competitively paid employees. This is addressed in the 2026 amended budget, along with $14 million in capital improvements and approximately $900 million in cost cutting. I will be in support of this budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further? Supervisor Preisker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have a statement I'd like to make. I also would like to thank the county executive for his leadership and the budget proposals that started the framework for this process. My fellow supervisors for all the insightful questions and amendments to ensure that the interests of the community are reflected, and to staff for all the support, answering questions and preparing requested information and documents. This year's budget process has probably been the most scrutinized in Racine County history. It's included hours and hours of public presentations, documents, questions and answers, and debate. It included 27 pages of supervisor questions and answers, at least 7 public meetings, including a public hearing, multiple workshops, a committee of the whole meeting, and the board meetings tonight, many of which have been broadcasted live and recorded for access and viewing at any time. The amended budget for us tonight includes the consideration of at least 6 amendments. This year's budget process has largely been a continuation of the county sales tax discussion and vote last year, which included about as many meetings and hours of discussion and considered at least 3 amendments. I respect the supervisors and other people in the community that opposed the county sales tax and wanted to make reasonable cuts and provide more property tax relief. Who doesn't want that? I mentioned it last year and I'll say it again this year. If anyone can demonstrate where we can make 10 to 17 million in reasonable cuts that don't defund critical services like the criminal justice system and roads, I'd be happy to support it then, and I would today. This year's budget process proves the county sales tax vote was the right vote. After a year of looking with the most critical lens possible, including the scrutiny from several members of the state legislature and those wanting to run for county board next year, the 10 to 17 million in reasonable cuts could not be found, proving that there isn't wasteful spending or inefficiencies, and defunding the police was not a talking point or a scare tactic. Additionally, this year's budget process confirmed implementing the county sales tax was the financially responsible thing to do. S&P Global Ratings, a third-party credit rating agency, affirmed the county's AAA credit rating, citing, quote, new sales tax revenue will enhance fiscal stability, and quote, S&P currently notches the county's financial performance score upward by 2 points based upon forward-looking positive effects to the county's financial performance, such as implementing the county sales tax, unquote. There are things I don't like in this budget, such as the continued defunding and deferred replacement of county assets known to be at or beyond useful life, especially the deferred design work for Highway W in Burlington, a project that's already been delayed over 20 years and is emblematic of the problems the county faces. But I trust and respect the process and the judgment of the county executive, my fellow supervisors, and staff that will make improvements going forward to create a long-term capital replacement plan, a debt capacity policy, and a reserve policy. My hope is that with passing this budget, the sales tax decision has been settled and we can move on with the important work to govern the county with practical solutions, united in the reality of the challenges and opportunities before us, and not waste our time and efforts on hypothetical talking points, chat GPT recommendations, or political rhetoric. Thank you.
Any further comments? Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just like to take a moment to thank the county executive, the cabinet, the staff for the countless hours of hard work and thoughtful effort that went into putting this budget and the budget amendments together. I'd like to thank all the phone calls and emails that I got from the constituents with their concerns that we had. It's been a tough one this year, trying to keep things fiscally responsible and still making our residents get the services that they deserve. It's a balance, right? It's been tough. And we keep looking forward to ways to reduce costs heading into 2026. I think we're moving in the right direction and continuing to make Racine County an even better place to live. Thank you.
Supervisor Rossi? You can stay from your seat right there.
Thank you, Chairman. There's a little bit of information I wanted to present tonight, and John is going to help me with that. So, a few of you have asked me, what amendments are you working on? And originally, I was working on about 16 of them, and I whittled that down to 12. And then I realized, what am I doing? This is really not something that makes much sense that one individual supervisor is working on 12 amendments. And to be honest, we'd be here till midnight the way things are going. Maybe I could have omnibused them down to 6, but I digress. What I did instead is I wanted to put together a document that would show all of you, the issue of our spending, and you could call it a revenue problem, you can call it a spending problem. I'm just going to present to you what it is. So I've got a few slides here, and they're going to demonstrate what I'm calling the proxy levy. And what that is our one-time and temporary and incremental funding sources over the past few years that have brought us to where we are. So operational growth via reserves. 2018 to 2024, Racine County budgeted a minimum of $5 million per year of reserve usage. And I say minimum because some years we went to $10, $11 million of reserve usage to balance a budget. 21 to 24, ARPA funds supplement operations and debt service. 25 and 26, new sales tax and increment for second year revenues fund operations and a portion of debt service. And I say increment because year one is about 60% of what year two. So there's an increment. It's not just the adjustment of the sales tax for inflation. As it stands, 2027 will be the first year since 2021 without temporary, new, or incremental operational funding sources, barring we do something crazy with opioid funds. Next slide, please. What this shows is the top line there, the blue line, is our total budget expenditure. The orange line is our countywide tax levy. So the countywide tax levy is the general levy plus our our debt service levy. And then the general levy should be thought of as operational levy. Now, that's the one you need to pay attention to here. Next slide. Oh, excuse me, before we go on the next slide, you should see that the difference obviously then is with that total expenditure, only a portion then, a very small portion relative to total expenditures is covered by our property tax levy. Next slide. Now, what this is showing is ARPA reserve usage and sales tax on operations only. And you can see starting in 2014 that we start to slowly taper up, and I should say rapidly. 2014, 2015, we really start to, at 2019, $8 million, or 2019, $8 million of reserve usage to balance the budget. Then what happens? 2021, ARPA funds hit. So the blue represents ARPA funds, and the gray on top then represents budgeted reserve usage. You can see things continue to climb. As we get to 2025, the orange, what happens? We get the sales tax. So we continue the trend of increased operational spending, sustained by means other than the general levy. Next slide, please. What this one is showing is total ARPA reserves and sales tax use. So capital is included in this one. You'll see there's a 2024 spike, and I believe that one is related to the YDCC. Maybe I could be wrong, but the spike in 2024 is relative to a capital expenditure. It's not an operational item, but wanted you to see the total use of these types of revenues. Next slide, please. So now what we have is I stripped out the reserve usage on the left chart, and then on the right chart is the general levy, and then the general levy as a modified, what I'm calling the proxy general levy. So that gray line is the general levy. Remember the operational use of levy funds, and the yellow line is what happens when we started introducing ARPA and the sales tax to our operations. Now, remember, this is the equivalent of what I would say is levy funded operations, because this isn't state funded, this isn't federal funds, this isn't grants of some kind. This is items that have to get paid by alternative funding. So you can see then that the trend line, and that's what that dotted line is, it's an exponential model. And there's a little bit of a bend to it because we start to really ramp up, obviously, as we get past 2021. And that's our trend right now. Now, you'll recall I said earlier in 2027, we will not have incremental or new funding sources. So that top line matters a lot more, and I'm going to get to why. Next slide, please. This one is our countywide levy. So now, again, general levy plus capital. So you'll see that, again, there's that spike in 2024. It's somewhat comparable to what we saw with the just the general levy, so the operational side of things. So you can just see very comparable trend lines. I want to get to the next slide, but I just wanted to show you this one so you could see that both of them they're moving forward at a very similar rate. Next slide, please. Now here's where things get interesting. The item on the left is the slide you saw earlier, and the item on the right is the trend line and percentages. So if you look at the trend line on the left, which is the general levy trend line, and you look at the trend line on the right, which is the proxy trend line. So it's our general levy augmented by our additional revenue sources that are not going to keep stepping up like what we've seen. The trend line on the augmented side, the one with the percentages, is a little over double the slope of what the one on the left is. That's how much we're growing. It's very important because now we're at this point of how quickly we're growing. We have to maintain that, or we have to find additional funding sources. Now, what I did is I forecasted, I believe it's on the next slide, if you could, John. Oh, no, excuse me. I did another one where I trend line both the county-wides. So you can see again the county-wide levy on the left in the orange, and then the augmented or the proxy county-wide levy in the blue. Again, because of our fund usage, we grew, and not only in our operations but in our debt service as well, and we financed it with these one-time funds or temporary funds, except the sales tax, which is now a permanent fund. Next slide. Now what I did here is using percentages, and I'll tell you what I did. I took an average for the last 7 years of growth. And why 7 years? Because that gives us 1 year before the ARPA funds hit. So a little bit of stabilization in the numbers here. And I forecasted out 2027 just based off of trends. So 2027 would be on the gray line, which is the general levy, 3.16%. So that's how things would work if we just kept going without any additional funds. 2027 is what we're really, or the yellow line, the general levy proxy is what we're really doing. That's how much money we're going to need to continue growing. And this doesn't even include the salary study in it. That's how much money we're going to need next year. So to do that, we'll have to look at more funds because we won't have the money there in the general levy. Where will we get the money? We'll have to get it from what's left of the sales tax. This year we're putting now maybe $5 million away for the debt relief. So that's purely dropping debt. That's going to come back then and get used on operations to fund this continued growth. This is a rolling average, mind you, this 7.08%. If you look really closely, what you'll notice is there's an inverse reaction. When 2022, when the yellow line went up, spiked a little bit, the general levy went down. So as we were able to use more of these funds to reduce the general levy, all we did was disguise our spending. We used just another source, but we continued to grow. And that's the issue that we're in right now. We are growing at 7%. We will need to continue to find funds to supplement this growth. The general levy is very misleading for what we're trying to do here. Again, general levy is 3.16. That's our operational side of things, what we get from the taxpayers and then apply right to our operations. We're really growing at 7.0. Then each one of those little lines in between represents $2 million. So knocking down $900,000 in expense, that's how dire this situation is, and that really doesn't affect the trend line. It maybe augments us down to somewhere in the sixes, and it's going to be a high 6%. But we need to drastically reduce that number. We need to get it to what we can sustain. We can sustain 3%. Now let's say the sales tax adds 1% on top of that. Maybe we can sustain 4%. There is no scenario where we can maintain what we're doing. All of these ideas where we add lifeguards and other spending, and it'd be great. No one is against the idea. That's the reality. We can't afford it. So again, add this percentage, in my opinion, is low because next year, add the salary study on top of this. So add $1 million to that. That wipes out any of the savings that have been presented by the county executive. And if it's a 30-70 split, I mean, then the full salary study is going to be like 1.3 or 1.4 million, somewhere around there. If the tax levy portion of it, 250,000 in Q4, the whole thing is going to be 1 million our side. So that pretty much tells you where you're at there. I can't support this. I want to close with a statement if the chairman would be so kind. I won't take more than 5 minutes.
We've told 10 to 10 and you're running up against your 10, so make it 2 or 3.
I will race through this. Last year, we were told that we needed to pass a sales tax to sustain operations and that stabilization would follow. The budget before us doesn't fix what's broken. It pushes us deeper into a structural problem. If we pass it as is, even with the executive's amendments, we won't react to a funding disaster. We're creating the next one. Debt and structural imbalance. Debt service has roughly doubled over the last decade. In 2014, the county budgeted about $7.4 million to debt service. By 22, it was about $16.7 million. For the latest round of borrowing pressures you see in the current cycle. And the 2026 budget explicitly shows debt service jumping by 1.7 or 20% due to bonding for the marina, 911 radio, and public safety projects, with only a portion offset by sales tax dollars in the debt fund. Sales tax is not a cure for overspending. By design of the 2026 proposal, $16 million of sales and use taxes routed to operations and $4 million to debt service as property tax relief. That structure doesn't reduce spending, it props up spending and debt service. If other revenues come in soft, we're immediately exposed. That is the case for 2025 in a more direct way, as anticipated revenues will be short of budgeted revenues for our sales tax by around $1 million. Reserves. The budget resumes the reserves use ramp up while realizing 2.1 million more in sales tax revenues for operations. We cannot allow reserve usage to creep back up, no matter how it is explained to us. Execution risk. The Youth Development Care Center ramps up in the 2026 plan, bringing real service value, but also higher ongoing costs. The budget says operating growth includes the YDCC ramp up plus mandatory software and public safety subscriptions. If our revenues underperform or timing slips, we have no cushion. We already saw a $2 million reduction in anticipated 2025 fines, fees, and forfeitures related to the YDCC. $2 million. We need to be much more cautious with our estimated revenues. Meanwhile, recreation and parks and facilities continue to require levy support, and I'll skip the rest of that section in the interest of time. So here, there's a core choice here. Keep kicking the can down the road or get on a corrective course. So here's a constructive path I would support. Send this budget back with instructions to stabilize first. Cap fiscal year 2026, 2027 gross new bonding and present a debt affordability schedule we can pay down. Freeze new multi-year tech and equipment commitments or greatly reduce their costs, including the Axon 10-year package, until a stabilization plan is presented and total cost of ownership is offset in writing where applicable. Authorize clean spending resolutions for items that are on critical timelines to address that specific issue. Protect the sales tax reserve. Protect the sales tax reserve. And I'd like to note that we are keeping a minimal amount of reserve. We have a policy of 5 to 20% for the sales tax to be kept in reserve. We're going with the absolute minimum right now, and that's just a note. Build in the salary study impact so supervisors can properly evaluate impact. Prioritize core operations and roads before amenities. Sequence capital so road maintenance projects are fully funded according to a meaningful paving plan and timeline before alterations and other repair work in county facilities. This budget reflects a significant reduction in road paving. And then lastly, most importantly, halt all new FTE positions until a dollar for dollar savings is identified or proof of conservative offset revenue generation is identified in writing. Last paragraph here, promise, Chairman. Process matters. We were promised additional budget listening sessions. Supervisor Trottier mentioned that, and he said sessions when there was one session. And I disagree with the evaluation that, those 4 points that were provided, number one, by my tally and what was put on the boards was roads. And that's one of the things that we see getting the least attention. How can our input be given when the process of doing so dissipates? We received an executive amendment after our own amendments were due to be reviewed by the FHR committee. This timeline is unreasonable for so many changes to a 200+ million spending plan and guarantees mistakes. We need a reset that includes a dialogue between the county executive and board. And then regarding real cost to residents, every bill our residents pay is framed as, well, this is just a few more dollars, and it's just, and how many times has it been presented to us that things are pennies per thousand? These are really just minute differences that people will have to pay. The sum of those few dollars is exactly what they feel. If we pass this budget as written and amended, we will build upon the problem for our residents. And I'd like to quote Benjamin Franklin, beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. We have this second chance. Last year was our first to use the sales tax to dig us out of a hole. Please do not use it to make the hole bigger. I'm not sure we will have another opportunity. There's no better time than now to start down a better path. Let's send this budget back, fix the structure, and adopt a sustainable budget our residents can afford. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Supervisor Orth.
Got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And to all of our supervisors here, personal thanks and appreciation for all of your efforts in putting this out. To our department heads and staff members, I'd be remiss, of course, if I didn't highlight all of your efforts as well. I think what I wanted to just close with for myself was that I remember last year when we talked about the sales tax levy, the sales tax. And the discussion at that time was we had a $17 million shortfall. We were going to get $20 million potentially from an annualized revenue base. Well, ultimately what that told us was we were going to stay flat. We basically were going to be just able to cover what we had from an expense standpoint. This year's budget, next year's budget that we have now gone through reviewing ad nauseum basically is saying to us that we're still barely covering our costs despite having $20 million. In fact, candidly, we had to go into the reserves to make it work. So here's what my thought is. Along with Supervisor Trottier, I also happen to feel that we have a revenue challenge. The challenge with the revenue right now, though, is going to be put back on the department heads. Because one thing for sure is I don't know how the vote will go tonight. But I do know this, that going into the new year, I'm fairly confident that we are all going to be looking at things a little differently as it relates to approvals and or what we're going to commit to going forward. Because to Supervisor Rossi's comments, what we're doing is not sustainable. We are going to continue to get further and further down the rabbit hole without a way to get out. And so it is going to take some tough decisions that unfortunately will not be popular. And yet at the same time, for us to be able to effectively operate the county, I would offer from my own humble opinion, it will take some of those tough decisions that are going to actually be able to get us there. I think our county executive has done a wonderful job trying to help prepare us, coordinate, get us here. But he also knows that there have been some things along this process that we, in fact, could have improved upon ourselves. And so we are going to learn from that going forward. And so from that standpoint, Mr. Chairman, thank you also for your leadership, and Vice Chairman. This is never an easy process to go through. Thank you for the opportunity.
Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to thank the county executive, the new guy on the block, the new guy to government, for really working hard to come up with a budget that meets our needs and is still fiscally responsible. I especially want to thank him for his amendment, which brought the levy down into a more reasonable increase. And I have to say it again, others have said it, but with all of this additional sales tax money, we're still in a challenging situation. County Executive Delagrave, during his last months with us, said the check engine light is on. It is still on. Some of our departments presented budgets that went down. But 14 of our departments presented budgets that went up 5% or more. As others have said, this is not sustainable. And as I said last year during the sales tax debate, and I will repeat, are we doing more than we can afford? And it doesn't do any good. Highest respect for my colleague, Supervisor Trotter, but it doesn't do any good to compare to other counties because we have what we have. And we have to deal with what we've spent in the past and what we can spend in the future. And as I see it, there's a lot of tough decisions ahead.
Any further comments? Well, I get the last say tonight. First of all, I want to be proud of all you supervisors, staff, county executive. With this type of a budget, we could have been screaming at each other for weeks. We wouldn't be talking, but we all acted professionally. We don't agree. That's normal. But I'm really proud of us all in this room. County executive, you did a good job. You got it here to us. We may not agree all that what the spending is. We've had numerous speakers tonight talk about it. We're all going to pitch in and work together. Staff, thanks for coming. Good Lord. You know, we were here countless hours, probably 15, 20 hours in this room. And a lot of you were here. You know, thank you. Thank you for the citizens listening in and the people who called us their constituents. Because, you know, sometimes county government is over there. What does the county supervisor do? Well, you know, when people call us and talk to us, we get an idea what they want. It's not that shock on December 15th when they get their tax bill. So with that, I call the question. Roll call vote.
Supervisor Kapralian, how do you vote?
Yes.
Supervisor Shakur, how do you vote? Supervisor Shakur?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. And let us document this. Okay, thank you. Moving on with our agenda. We are now to the group of 2/3 majority vote. That would be resolution number 2025-46 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing a multi-year contract with Axon Enterprise LLC for the amount of $17,029,223. And resolution number 2025-49 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the acceptance of a port security grant program grant in the amount of $412,500 and transfer of funds between the Sheriff's Office and the Capital 2026 budgets.
Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In regards to resolution 2025-46, this refers to a 10-year contract with Axion Enterprise, broken down as follows: years 1 through 5 at a cost of $1.6 million per year, and then years 6 through 10, $1.9 million a year. What does this involve? over the 10 years. I have two individuals that could break it down into details, and they are Sheriff Schmeling and Captain Evans here to speak about those, about the contract with Axion Enterprise over the next 10 years. Captain Evans? Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I'm sorry.
Motion is seconded.
So I've spoke at length to, I think, everybody here about this contract. This covers everything from our body cameras to our tasers, the training that it takes to use the new tasers. It does a complete change out of our UAV systems, which has been a priority, I think, for some of the people on this board, from Chinese-made drones to American-made. It pushes us into the future with what we're working with. It also puts us on a 10-year contract with a agreement for all of the things that are produced for AI being included in that contract. It has warranty protection so that every piece of equipment that we have is warranted. It's also guaranteed for when the upgrade comes out, it replaces the equipment with the newest, latest, greatest. This was intentionally negotiated by Captain Getsky and I to be as holistic as possible. It's not everything that they have. It is the things that we need, but it is intentional in the way that we did it so that we don't have to come back and ask for more. We wanted to try to be very careful that we negotiated the best price for the best term without having to come back and keep asking. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions? Supervisor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think one question we all have is what, if any, alternatives do we have? And I'm not being smart ass about it, but can you speak to that a little bit?
So we've had a long-term contract or long-term relationship with Axon. I know there's been a lot of questions, and I'll be honest with you, when I gave the initial presentation to the sheriff, we had it scheduled for about 45 minutes for me to present to him. I kept him in the room for 2 hours. This is an incredibly complex, any of you that looked at the contract for this is an incredibly complex contract. There is not a good alternative to do everything that this does. That is the simplest answer. One of the things that I know came up and it was asked to me over the past couple of weeks was there's a difference between the storage. If you look at the apples to apples, there's unlimited storage. That's everything that comes off of this. Everything that comes from my body camera is unlimited storage. The problem is, like you guys know, most crimes happen digitally now. Whether that's the information that we're taking out of your car from the black box in your car after we seize your vehicle, or if it's the information coming off your cell phone, all of that digital evidence has to go somewhere. And we are bursting at the seams with digital evidence. This contract has unlimited third-party storage. So that allows us to store all of the digital evidence that we collect from other places within compliant storage systems so that we're not having to continually go back and buy more storage. I had to do that once this year already to buy storage for ICAC, our Internet Crimes Unit. When I originally started quoting this about 2.5 years ago, when they first showed me my storage costs and I broke it down, I immediately left and called Dave Huber with IT and said, we've got to be able to beat this. There is no way I'm paying this amount of money for this storage. I won't feel right coming to the board asking you guys to spend this. Let's beat it. He went and talked to CDW. We got several different quotes, and to do the storage the way they do it, to have it secured and to meet compliance, it was like 4 times the cost. This is an expensive ask, but it does solve a lot of our problems, and it does do it the most effectively and the most efficiently.
Any further questions? Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. So I have a question about the third-party storage. And if it allows them to have access to our data, or do they need permission from us to?
So third party means in this situation, it means that it's something not created by an Axon device. So the third party does not mean that they have access to our storage. It means that we have access to store things that were created by a different vendor, a different thing. We don't host any of the storage ourselves, so they have no access to our data. All of that is hosted within Axon's cloud, and it has a lot of security measures and features to it. It's all hosted within the Microsoft Gov Cloud. So all of that is managed by them. We pay for that service. They take care of managing that for us.
We pay for it in this amount.
This is, it's
Included.
part of, yes, it's part of the whole contract. Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions? This is a 2/3 majority vote. Do we want to work them together or take them separate?
Mr. Chairman, I'm requesting that we work them together, please.
Okay, then go on to the next one.
And I'd like to go on to the next one. Thank you. Resolution 2025-49. I want to just comment about the persistence of the individuals that were responsible for this federal grant. It's been going on for the last 4 to 5 years to obtain this grant for a water safety patrol boat, where the grant amount is $412,500 and the match is $137,500. I commend the sheriff's staff, the sheriff, and I believe it's Captain Evans who works primarily on this. And if you'd like him to step up again, I'm sure he would be happy to speak on this. Captain Evans, thank you.
Absolutely. So I know that some of the questions out there have been related to the match and whether or not the ask on this, the 1.4 million over the 2 years here is eligible. Our interpretation, everything that we've read along with Corp Counsel and with Travis and his team for the grant is that we believe it is. However, with the government shutdown, we have not been able to get that clear answer directly from them. So I can say that this person in the federal government said it's okay. But everything that we know of grants and everything that we've done, we believe this isn't a problem. This does have to go to RFP. There's a lot of work to do on this project yet. What I can tell you is I've talked to 5 different vendors. 2 of them I received hard quotes from for what a boat that would match capabilities of our 41-foot 1971 Anton, what that would cost, and that's how I landed in this price range. I did a lot of homework, a lot of research. There's a lot left to do. But that's this $400,000 grant will offset then that total cost over the next 2 years.
Supervisor Shakur has a question.
No, sir.
No, sir.
No question.
Well, that's what they handed me a note, Q.
No, I don't have a question.
Okay. Supervisor Horth?
Yes, thank you, Captain. Mr. Chairman, I had a question regarding the expense now, and I apologize. I'm going to go back to the one you did previously, if that's okay. What you had talked about, and I thought there was 1.6 million for the year.
Yes.
Is that what the cost was going to be? Just so I have a sense of being able to review these types of questions going forward, where does that number appear in your budget for next year?
So that would be in our body cam line.
So
Where it would show up, I believe there's $1 million placeholder there currently.
Well, you currently have 1.5 million in your body cam.
1.5, it's 1.55. So I don't know how there was an error there. The total cost per year is 1.55.
Okay, so this right now is $50,000 short in your budget before we even start the year. I'm sorry, my apologies. I've got you at a disadvantage. I'm looking at the number right now, which is why I pulled it up.
Sure.
And these are the kinds of questions I was referring to earlier as it relates to us approving things going forward and making sure that there's actual line items that reflect what the amounts are. But right now, we've already started with a $50,000 negative spot, if you will.
Sure.
So, okay, thank you for answering the question.
Any further questions? Supervisor Kolb?
What is the life expectancy of the new boat? I'm guessing with switches and micro switches versus cables and old engines.
So I've had
What
initial.
is the expected lifespan?
Sure. I've had initial conversations with 4 of the 5 vendors on life expectancy. One of them came late into this whole mix, and I haven't talked with them yet about what life expectancy is. There is a cost to replacing some of the parts. Some of them are more expensive than others, so we're looking at what that would weigh out for our decision making, but I would expect it to be 20+ years. There is repower that can be done depending on how those engines, how we mount them, what we do with them, depending on how this whole process works, it'll affect it. Obviously, there's a lot of different styles out there, but I think that I'd be pretty confident in saying 20+.
I can tell you, I had a conversation with, past county executive Jacobson. And she said something like, "You still got that boat?" Cause she, I believe she was on the board or when you received it from the Coast Guard, so. Any further questions? Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. So my question is there any chance that we could find a very good used boat instead of a brand new?
So these are very purpose-built vessels. It's very different than what a hobby boat would be.
No, I'm not talking about a hobby.
I get that. I understand. But what ends up happening is a lot of times people buy these because they purpose build them for their jurisdiction and their work, and then they wear them out before they want to get rid of them. And at this point, when you're looking at that, the rebuild, the repower, and the maintenance costs that would go into an aluminum vessel like this, it likely would be more costs in the long run than it would to just buy it new and then have it for the lifespan. I can research that further. I've looked at it a little bit, but every time I've researched it, it is pretty cost prohibitive and doesn't make a lot of sense in my mind, at least, to go down that track.
Any further questions? All right, well, I'm going to call the question then, and this is a 2/3 majority vote. So John?
Supervisor Kerpelian, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Supervisor Shakur has texted. He is also voting yes. Oops.
You're affirmative vote? Okay.
Supervisor McReynolds is a
Yes.
yes, and
Yes.
Supervisor Rossi is
Abstain.
abstain. Okay. Okay, and then our last category for second readings this evening is our 3/4 majority vote. That would be resolution number 2025-51 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $550,000 in taxable general obligation promissory notes, Series 2026B. And resolution number 2025-52 by Finance and Human Resources Committee authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed $13,930,000 in general obligation promissory notes, Series 2026A.
Supervisor Trotter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to summarize both of these resolutions, which I'm requesting that we take care of both of them on the vote, are to establish parameters. This is not borrowing the money. And I have Director Otto, Director Zimmer here to explain what the 550 and the 13.9 million are for.
Thank you, Chairman.
Need a motion?
I motion.
Motion's been made and seconded by Preisker. Proceed.
Thank you. Just wanted to know, for some of the newer supervisors who may not understand what the parameters resolution is, as the body voted to adopt the 2026 budget tonight, and that included 14-ish million of bonded debt financed projects. These are the parameters resolutions to allow the county to be able to actually do the debt financing for it. In prior years, before I became director, we used to make sure that the sale, bless you, make sure that the sale was the night of a county board meeting so that the board could approve those bids and accept the sale itself. Our financial advisors recommended that we switch to a parameters resolution, which allows the body with a greater supermajority vote to set the interest rate and the dollar amount not to exceed. And then we can look at the market and make sure that we're going out at the most advantageous time for the county. We did just sell bond issuance last week. We had 9 bidders, which is the most that I've ever seen. And we got a 3.77% interest rate. And then the next day the feds cut the rate. So I do anticipate that the parameters listed in here at 6% for the tax exempt and 7% for the taxable will come in a lot less than what we're setting the parameters. But we'll work with financial advisors, if this is approved, to make sure that we're going at the most advantageous time for the county.
Any questions? Supervisor Cole.
So, but this is long-term bonding, right?
This is long-term bonding.
So
Yes.
the interest rate cut doesn't really affect the long-term bonding then,
It
right?
does, yeah.
Long-term bonding is off of the 10-year note, not the Fed note, right?
This will be a 20-year note. And in it, we're setting the interest rate at 6 or 7%, depending, or 6% for the tax exempt. Some of the things within that tax exempt will be a 5-year, and we'll just set our amortization schedule to be able to pay those off sooner. But yes, we do see an interest rate decrease when the feds cut their rates.
Okay.
And we see adjustment with that.
Supervisor Preisker.
If I can add to that, Supervisor Cole, the bond fund managers will just consider the risk premium of buying a municipal bond from us relative to government treasuries. So if the Fed's lower rates, then if assuming the risk premium is basically the same, it just shifts down what they require, from our bonds when they buy them.
Supervisor Varanth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Did our investment folks, have they said that it will go down based on what the feds did or not?
I met with them this morning, actually, to talk about arbitrage management of these bond proceeds. Because for the first time in my time here, we could face arbitrage where we're earning more in interest income than we are paying in interest expense. And they have a program that will help manage that for us. Nobody has a crystal ball, but they do anticipate that the feds will cut their rate again in December, and if not in December, very likely in January.
And also when do we lock into this? Or if they do go down, we can float down with it in some cases or not?
No, we would look at the market. Yeah, we would look at the market. We'd look at the federal calendar to figure out what the most advantageous time to go. We also look at when other municipalities are going out to market so that we're not saturating, like we'll become the star the day of that. We do typically bond just for cash needs in July or August. But that will depend on what's going on with interest rates.
I mean, I'm by no means an expert on any of this, but from an interest rate, from a housing interest rate perspective, it was my understanding that they were expecting a 0.5% cut and they only got a 0.25% cut. And actually residential interest rates went up after that 0.25% cut last week.
Yeah, these are general obligation promissory notes. So yeah, different.
Any further questions? Well, this is a 3/4 majority vote. I'll call the question.
Supervisor Kupelian,
Yes.
Supervisor Shakur.
Not a battery power.
Yeah, I would agree. And Supervisor Shakur is also voting yes. And that motion carries.
And motion carries. Item number 12, reconsideration of resolutions and or ordinances from previous meetings and or action on vetoes.
There are no items.
Reconsideration of and or notice of intent to reconsider resolutions and ordinances.
There is no notice.
Informational reports.
There are none on tonight's agenda.
Item number 15, miscellaneous business announcements or oral reports.
Chair.
Supervisor Wishaw.
Thank you, Chair. I have actually just more of a comment I want to make about statement that was made in public comment tonight about my community. I take strong offense to the statement made during public comment implying that Burlington is a racist community. I would encourage the gentleman to first focus on the challenges within his own community, including the troubling proficiency scores within RUSD, before casting judgment on my community, which he knows absolutely nothing about. Thank you.
And then I've got one. Last weekend with the FFA, Future Farmers of America, met in Indianapolis, and I have 3 students from, well, not any more students, they're 20-year-olds that got the American Farmer degree. Brooke Weber, Maya Weinkoff, and Nolan Elgin. Congratulate them. It's from freshmen to be about 21 years old, and that's the highest degree you can get in the state. There was 75,000 Future Farmers of America and agribusinessmen in Indianapolis. Supervisor Spencer.
Thank you. I think it was honorable of Supervisor QA Shakur to attend this tonight when he's away at his daughter's wedding. And I just want to, QA, if you're still on, to extend to your daughter a lovely wedding and a lovely life thereafter.
Supervisor Capralian.
Thank you so much. So County Board Supervisors, you should have received an email from Wendy. Thank you, Wendy, that it is Youth and Governance nomination time. So I do encourage those who are mentors to reach out to your mentees and encourage whatever kind of support you can give them to reach out to whoever necessary within their schools. So support that and go to that email that Wendy did send out, and it's a simple Google form that you can nominate youth or pass along to those who work within youth that are either freshmen, sophomore, or juniors in a Racine County high school. So this is the time. The deadline is December 19th. But I encourage now because schools start getting really crazy as we ramp up into December as it becomes closing out that before the holidays. So kids are either doing finals or any other work before the holidays. So I wanted to say that, and I didn't get the opportunity, Chairman, before, so I still hope it's okay for me just to put a thanks out to the county executive with his now under a year on the budget for bringing this forward and enduring this very difficult process. I know for a newly elected person, it can be quite challenging and things, especially when you are somebody who functions from the heart. A lot of these things can feel very personal, but this is a process, the budget. It's not something that all of a sudden these numbers come fresh to us 1 year at a time. This is a built up of many years of decisions. And I also want to put a thanks out to all the heads of the departments, those working for the county. We do trust in you. All the other times of the year, and sometimes this process may seem like we have lost trust in your decision making when you are presenting something as if we're questioning that decision. It's just the ugliness of the process. We do trust you, and we sure appreciate that you are working for us and helping make Racine County, just a great place to not only work, but to live. And for the county supervisors this year have given me so much more to consume during this process. It has been great. It's expanded my mind. And I think next year is going to be a beautiful collaborative year of the county board and administration, the county executive. So I look forward to seeing what that process looks like. Thank you.
Supervisor Hopkins.
Yes, I have a birthday this week on Wednesday. I turned 52. I appreciate the county and the executive always acknowledging that. So I don't take anything for granted this time of my life to, celebrate. So
You were worried you'd have to bring cake if we went past midnight.
I would do it. Yeah, grades are coming. So, but yeah, we celebrated it.
Any